So Clone Trooper 5s, I should say ARC Trooper 5, so I'll edit that in the description later because I wrote Clone Trooper, but I should have written ARC Trooper. ARC Trooper 5s never had the chance to kill Darth Sidious. It just wasn't going to happen. Like, there was no way 5s was going to kill Palpatine. Because obviously, remember, 5s had the blaster pointed at Palpatine, and of course, Shakti used the Force to push 5s away, but I don't think it would have mattered if Shakti had gotten there a little later, because there was no way Palpatine was going to die like that. And so, the first and most obvious reason that I'm going to get out of the way is the fact that obviously Darth Sidious is in the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, so he cannot die. Like, he has plot armor. He's in Revenge of the Sith, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and even The Rise of Skywalker. So obviously, I do not like the sequel trilogy, but that's for another video. But Clone Trooper, but so obviously that's why Palpatine could not die in that episode of the Clone Wars, because he has plot armor. But let's go through a few other reasons. Obviously, Darth Sidious staged the whole thing, and he knew that 5s would try to kill him. So Darth Sidious had everything planned out perfectly. So if Shakti had been a little late and ARC Trooper 5s had shot the blaster at Palpatine, then really just Darth Sidious would have just used the Force to make the blaster bolt miss and like hit the ground next to him. And then Shakti would have gotten there and subdued him. Or maybe Darth Sidious would have just used the Force to push 5s back, and then Shakti would have come in and caught him, because Shakti would not have been able to see Darth Sidious use the Force. And also, alternatively, Darth Sidious might have been wearing a bulletproof vest underneath his clothes, so maybe it wouldn't have even mattered if he got shot. And also, alternatively, Darth Sidious might have just used the Force to, block the blaster bolt. Or maybe Darth Sidious might use the Force to turn 5s around and make him kill all the clone troopers and guards in the room, and then just push it back with the Force. And like, do you think that the all-powerful Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious himself, would have gone down so easily? No, he had the whole thing planned, the whole thing staged, and he knew what was going to happen. And so there was no way he was going to be in a situation where he was really going to die. Like people who say, well, what if 5s kill Palpatine? I mean, I certainly would be very interested in that what if scenario, and a lot of people have done that what if scenario. So I'm looking forward to seeing those videos on YouTube when I have the time. But that's a great theory, but the realistic thing is it just never could have happened because of how careful and meticulous Darth Sidious is with his planning and stuff. It just wasn't going to ever happen. But what if it did? What if it did happen? And I wasn't actually going to go into this what if scenario, but I just spontaneously decided that I am going to do this what if scenario now. So let's just say 5s manages to shoot Darth Sidious in the face, and Darth Sidious gets hit. He's way caught off guard, and of course Darth Sidious is now dead. So 5 shoots Darth Sidious, and Darth Sidious is dead somehow. And so we'll assume at this point that Exegol is not a thing, and that Darth Sidious doesn't have contingency plans, and that he wasn't planning on dying, and so he can't be resurrected in that ridiculous way he was resurrected in The Rise of Skywalker. So we'll go with that assumption. As I said, there's a million ways we could explore this scenario, but we're only going to do one this time. So Shakti would get into the room, and she would be horrified that I don't even think she would have much time to apprehend 5s, and 5s would just run away. And Masameda would also be horrified and stunned, and the red guards and the shock troopers would all just be like, they'd be like, oh no, like, oh F, like, this is terrible. Our dear leader Palpatine is dead. What do we do? And so Shakti would immediately call the Jedi Council, would call Plo Koon, Mace Windu, Yoda, Kiadi Mundi, Coleman Kaj, the rest of them, Alpo Rancisis, and we can go through the line. But yeah, Shakti would immediately just call them and have them come over. Or she would go have them come over to the scene, because she probably wouldn't want to leave the scene of the crime. And so 5s would run away, and he would escape to the depths of Coruscant, and he would probably... So 5s, he didn't know the exact extent to which Palpatine was involved. He didn't know that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, the total mastermind behind the clone troopers and the Clone Wars itself. So Fives would still be wanting to figure out what had happened, and he would want to get to the bottom of the conspiracy. So he probably wouldn't be content with the Chancellor dead yet. So Shakti, so Windu, Coleman Kaj, Operancesis, Plo Koon, and Anakin would arrive. And I think Shakti would send Anakin Skywalker to go search for Fives because that's what Anakin would want to do. And of course, Anakin would be horrified that Palpatine is dead. But I mean, at this point, his priority would still be Fives, and Palpatine's dead. So what are you going to do? So Anakin Skywalker and Captain Rex would go search for Fives. Meanwhile, Shakti, Coleman Kaj, Operancesis, Mace Windu, Yoda, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto, and Obi-Wan Kenobi and the rest of them would question Masameda and Nala Se, of course. And Nala Se would not know what to do, so Nala Se would probably try to contact Prime Minister Lama Su first, but obviously that wouldn't be, the Jedi would be quick and they would stop. And I think Prime Minister Lama Su would immediately order Nala Se back to Kamino, and whether or not Nala Se escapes from the Jedi is another question, but I think the Jedi would catch her. And so they have Nala Se and Masameda in the room, and they question Nala Se and Masameda, and really Masameda is very weak without Darth Sidious supporting him. So Darth Sidious and Nala Se would easily crack. They would easily crack, and they would just tell Mace Windu and Yoda and Coleman Kaj and Kit Fisto and Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon and Shakti everything. So the Jedi Council would essentially immediately realize that Darth Sidious is a Sith Lord. They would realize that Darth Sidious is a Sith Lord, and they'd be like, "Oh no! Like this guy was a Sith Lord, but Fives killed him, and now Darth Sidious is dead." So the first thing the Jedi Council would do is they would take control of Masameda, and they would force Masameda to listen to them and say, "Masameda, you're going to go out and you're going to maintain order in the Senate. You're going to make sure that the Republic stays stabilized, and we'll come up with a cover story." Or something. So the Jedi would come up with a way to kind of spin or present what happened. And meanwhile, Anakin and Captain Rex would get the message, and they would be shocked, but obviously, and Anakin would not want to believe it, but eventually he would have to accept the evidence because the Jedi Council would search Darth Sidious' belongings, and they would find the two Sith lightsabers as well as many other things. And of course, the next priority would be to deal with Count Dooku, because Count Dooku is still out there. And meanwhile, Count Dooku would not know yet. And so I think the Jedi, for the time being, would actually cover up Darth Sidious' death. They would pretend that Palpatine is very sick and not able to come out in public, and Masameda would be the Jedi puppet maintaining order, and maybe the Jedi would make Mon Mothma or Bail Organa take a more active role. And so the Jedi meet and they decide what to do. They now know the information about the clone troopers. So the Jedi Council forces Prime Minister Lama Su to tell them everything. And they find out everything about Sifo Dyas and all that. And so the Jedi Council has all the clone troopers across the galaxy remove their inhibitor chips, first and foremost, because they know that those inhibitor chips can be used against them. And then the Jedi Council decides what to do about Count Dooku. And so Obi-Wan Kenobi knows that Count Dooku is on Sereno. So I think Yoda and Mace Windu would go to Sereno, and they would fight Count Dooku, and they would Count Dooku might either come in alive or dead. And let's just say Mace Windu and Yoda managed to take Count Dooku in alive. Count Dooku loses the fight to Mace Windu and Yoda. He goes in as a prisoner, and he's questioned by the Jedi Council, and they find out everything about him. And they find out the entire truth. Now, what they would do is they would force Count Dooku to summon General Grievous and the rest of the Separatist Council. And it's really the Separatist Council that controls the droids and gets to deactivate or activate them. And so they would capture the Separatist Council. It forced the Separatist Council to deactivate the entire droid armies. And they would probably find General Grievous and kill him too. And after doing all of that, well, Now the Jedi have control of the Separatists and the Republic, the Confederacy and the Republic. And I think it depends what happens from here because maybe they want to cover it up, maybe they want to be honest. So what do they do? Well, I think the Jedi would probably install Mon Mothma. They would probably try to install Bail Organa as Chancellor, but I think Bail Organa would defer to Mon Mothma and let Mon Mothma be the Chancellor. And they would capture and imprison every single one of Darth Sidious's cronies. And so clones had their inhibitor chips removed. Separatist Council is captured. The war is over. The Jedi have ended the war, and Count Dooku is also in prison. And things would be relatively solved, I guess. Or what happens? Well, there's a piece of the puzzle because Mother Talzin and Darth Maul are still in the picture, remember? So Mother Talzin and Prime Minister Almec would still send the Mandalorians to rescue Darth Maul from his prison on Sijin Prime. Darth Maul will be rescued, and Darth Maul and Mother Talzin and their criminal friends, the Shadow Collective and the Mandalorians, they would plan for something big because at this point, Darth Maul still has control over the neutral systems, and Prime Minister Almec is Darth Maul's figurehead. So Prime Minister Almec would still be keeping the neutral systems together, and they would still refuse to join back the Republic. So Darth Maul knows that public opinion is against the Jedi, and people don't like them. So Darth Maul would exploit that, and Darth Maul and his criminal gangsters would probably cause a lot of chaos in the galaxy and the Republic worlds, and then the public would blame all the chaos on the Jedi, who have effectively taken over the Republic, and then they turn that anger against Jedi. So Darth Maul would turn the public against the Jedi, and Darth Maul and his criminal empire and Mandalorians and thugs and all those guys and the entire galactic public, they would all declare wage war on the Jedi and destroy them. Or, I mean, at least cause a lot of damage because without Darth Sidious in the picture, really anything is possible. So there's a lot of things that could have happened, but I think with Darth Sidious dead in that context, the Jedi would easily be able to cover it, all of it up, and dress it up in a different way and seize control. And Count Dooku wouldn't really be a problem in this scenario because he's just a dude who's following orders from Darth Sidious and ultimately doesn't have any real power. So the Jedi would be able to handle that. So the biggest factor here would, in fact, be Darth Maul.